Hey, hold on a second. Would you believe there's a creature out there that actually dies every winter, then comes back to life every spring like nothing ever happened? I'm not speaking metaphorically here. It really dies. Heart stops beating, brain shuts off completely, breathing vanishes entirely. If you picked it up at that moment, it would feel like holding a solid block of ice, rock hard, just like a popsicle left in the freezer for 3 straight months. No pulse, no breath, and if you tapped it, you'd hear a hollow clink, no different from tapping a real chunk of ice. If a coroner happened to be standing right there, they'd sign the death certificate without a second thought. And yet, 3 months later, when the spring sun starts warming things up, that same creature suddenly hops away, off to find a mate, perfectly healthy, as if it had just woken up from a long afternoon nap rather than an actual death. Today's star is the wood frog, a tiny amphibian scattered across forests all over North America. It may look small and unassuming, but this little creature holds a superpower that would make superhero movies look tame by comparison: the ability to resurrect from the dead. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it pulls off this impossible trick. Before we dive into the frog's story, let's imagine something for a second. Say you're a human being, and someone tells you, "Let me freeze you solid, and in 3 months, when we thaw you out, you'll be perfectly fine." You'd run for your life immediately. Why? Because you already know exactly what would happen next. Just think about a piece of beef sitting in your freezer. Leave it too long, thaw it out, and it turns into a soggy, mushy, falling apart mess that's lost all its original texture. That's because the water inside every muscle fiber froze into ice, and those ice crystals act like tiny razor blades, shredding everything from the inside out. Living bodies work exactly the same way. Humans, dogs, cats, any typical warm-blooded animal, if truly frozen solid, is done for. There's no coming back from that. And yet, this small frog chooses that exact path, one that looks like suicide on paper, as its winter survival strategy. While bears crawl into dens to stay warm and squirrels stockpile food to wait out the cold, the wood frog basically says, "Why bother avoiding it? Just freeze me already." It sounds reckless, almost like a death wish, but it turns out to be one of the most brilliant survival strategies nature has ever come up with. So where does the real secret lie? The answer, as it turns out, sits right inside its liver. When temperatures start dropping, the wood frog's liver suddenly transforms into a syrup factory, running at full capacity around the clock. It pumps out a massive surge of glucose, hundreds of times more than normal, and floods it straight into the blood, the liver, the kidneys, and every corner of the body. Picture it like this. Every winter, the frog turns its own blood into thick, sugary syrup, sweet and viscous, just like pancake syrup. But why go through all this trouble? Because that ultra-concentrated syrup acts exactly like an invisible suit of armor. It stops the water inside each individual cell from forming those dangerous, razor-sharp ice crystals. Instead, the water is only allowed to freeze in the spaces outside the cells, a safe zone where it can't stab or destroy anything. Put simply, the frog's entire body freezes solid from the outside, but deep inside, every tiny cell stays warm, soft, and completely safe. It's no different from a house buried under snow on the outside, while the fireplace keeps burning steadily inside, completely unaffected. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, that's simple enough. What's the big deal? Hold on. This is exactly where scientists have been scratching their heads for decades. If the heart has already stopped, where does the force come from to pump that sugary syrup throughout the entire body in time to protect every organ? With no heartbeat and no blood circulation, how does that protective armor ever reach the liver, the brain, or any of the corners that need shielding? And the problem gets even more intense once you realize this. The freezing process in this frog isn't slow or gentle at all. It happens incredibly fast, within just a few hours once the temperature drops suddenly. If the heart stops before enough sugar reaches the organs, that part of the body is finished for good, with no way to save it. In other words, the frog is playing a high-stakes game against its own biological clock. It has to die fast enough to avoid freezing the wrong way, which would mean real, permanent death. But at the same time, it also has to stay alive long enough to pump that protective dose throughout the entire body before its heart stops completely. A breathless race against death, measured in mere minutes. And this is the best part of the entire story. The moment the wood frog's skin senses the very first ice crystals forming on the outside, an emergency alarm signal instantly fires off inside its body. Within just a few minutes, the liver reacts almost immediately, pumping a massive dose of sugar into the bloodstream at breakneck speed. Here's the most remarkable part: the freezing process itself. The very thing that seems like the deadliest enemy accidentally becomes the frog's greatest ally. As the water in the outer tissues freezes first, it creates a pushing pressure that forces the sugar-rich blood to flow faster toward the most critical organs deep inside, the liver, heart, and brain, before the ice has a chance to spread and stop the heart completely. Thanks to this ingenious mechanism, the heart, brain, and other vital organs are always the first places bathed in that protective syrup, and in the highest concentration, while the rest of the body, the skin, muscles, and limbs, ends up bearing the brunt of the freezing. Then, when spring knocks on the door and temperatures gradually rise, the ice melts in exactly the reverse order, from the outside in. The heart, the organ that was protected most carefully from the very start, is the first to restart, beating its first slow, hesitant beats before gradually speeding up, and life spreads back out through the entire body. Just a few hours after the last bit of ice melts away, the frog that had been clinically dead for 3 long months hops off cheerfully in search of a mate, calling loudly across the pond, as if it had never experienced any separation from life at all. Nature truly is more astonishing than any science fiction movie humans have ever dreamed up, don't you think? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep exploring more incredible animal secrets together.